Hello, I'm Anastasia Lavrina. A ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah took effect early this morning following an agreement brokered by the United States and France. The deal aims to end 14 months of conflict that escalated after the Gaza war. Under the terms of the agreement, both sides have agreed to halt hostilities and engage in negotiations to address ongoing tensions. More on this issue, we will talk with our experts right now. Joining me now from Israel is Mikhail Finkel, political scientist, expert on international relations. And from Lebanon, we have Artur Bloch, editor-in-chief of the Liberium. We're welcome to our program.
Thank you. How are you doing?
Thank you so much. So, Mikhail, my first question to you. Do you believe that the ceasefire represents a temporary pause or a more permanent shift in the Israel-Hezbollah conflict?
I don't believe. Well, I think that Lebanon as a country cannot control and has no means of controlling Hezbollah, a terrorist organization that is recognized as a terrorist organization by most civilized countries of the world. Lebanese army up until this conflict, the beginning of this conflict, was weaker than Hezbollah. So we have done a great favor for Lebanese people that we made Hezbollah now very weak and diminished. Hopefully, Lebanese army now will be able to control them, but there's no guarantee whatsoever because after the announcement of the treaty, Hezbollah already started its intrusion, and we fired upon them. And we're told to all the sides involved that if there will be any danger to our citizens, we're going to strike anywhere in the territory of Lebanon because we fight the war with this terrorist organization, not with Lebanese people and not with Lebanese army. So we'll do everything we can to protect ourselves and our citizens.
Artur, does Lebanon see this ceasefire as a step toward long-term peace, or is it viewed as a temporary pause in a broader and ongoing conflict?
Well, it's not an easy question to answer. I mean, it's a start. I mean, having a ceasefire is always better than fighting, in my perspective. But if it's a solution, I would say no. As my counterpart just said, it all depends on the Lebanese army. Are they now ready to take over control of the area beneath the Litani River? I doubt it, because the Lebanese army is under-equipped, doesn't have the capacity to take control of that large area in southern Lebanon. And that's, of course, the vacuum that Hezbollah operated in the past 15, 20 years. We've been in the same situation in 2006. There was a ceasefire. Resolution 1701 needed to be implemented to make sure Hezbollah didn't regroup, and what we saw in the past year meant that this resolution was never implemented. Now, I'm a bit skeptical if this is going to be the solution for Lebanon, but to answer your question, it's always better than to fight.
You say that this deal is better than the war, but how exactly you see the future process to be discussed between two sides? What are your expectations for the future?
It depends a little bit. Of course, in the past year, a lot of infrastructure has been destroyed in the areas where Hezbollah is active. I'm talking also about civilian infrastructure, homes, schools, churches, mosques, etc. Now, the question is, who is going to pay for all the damage? In 2006, after the war with Israel, it was Iran who literally came with airplane full of money, handing it out to the people and repaying their building of their homes. So the question now is, who is going to pay for that? Is it going to be some kind of intervention power, like headed by the United States and France, to see that the Lebanese army is actually implementing what has been agreed, and then if it's going to be rebuilt, because many people lost their homes and their lives, basically. There now, if you see this morning what happened, you have thousands of people in their cars going back to the south, despite the fact that it's still being a military zone. So the question is now, who is going to step in? The Lebanese army is weak, we know that. There's consensus among international parties to stop the conflict for the time being. We have an administration change in the United States. President Trump is going to take over again. He has specific views on the Middle East, so it all depends a bit on who jumps in the vacuum. These people need homes to live in, can't live on the streets. Then the institutes have to be rebuilt. So the question you should ask yourself is, who is going to pay for it? The one who pays for that will have some kind of control and influence. So the Iranians, again, then I fear that in 10 years we'll be back at square one. If it's, let's say, something done under the auspices of the international community, things might as well change. A lot depends on such factors, to be honest.
That's a very good issue. So we have our Israeli expert back with us. Mikhail, how do you evaluate the role of the international actors like the United States of America, France, and others who try to bring peace to the Middle East?
Well, first of all, I'd like to answer my vis-a-vis. The aggressor always pays and suffers the consequences of the aggression. Hezbollah of Lebanon attacked Israel after Israel was attacked by Hamas on October 7th of last year. So hence you pay for everything. You pay with suffering, you pay with damage, and you pay with war. You shouldn't have attacked Israel, especially when you're much weaker as a state and as an army. Now, regarding international community, it's bluff. It doesn't exist. These are just people who assemble, eat well, spend time in hotels, and discuss issues. Nothing will be done. Now, what will be done is President Trump of the United States here for sure can help, because let me remind you that Father Tiffany's Trump's husband is Lebanese. So he has relatives in Lebanon, and he cares for that country. So that's why there's a family connection over here, and that's why President Trump could help the Lebanon. But first of all, a cancerous growth, which is called Hezbollah, a terrorist organization, must be entirely removed from the ill body of the Lebanese state. I'll remind you, in the 70s, Lebanese was a prosperous country, a wealthy country, a Switzerland of Middle East, and what it turned into now, a terrible Afghanistan-looking country. Lebanese people have to free themselves from this cancer. And what's unfortunate is that even in the Lebanese army today, there are many Hezbollah people who are serving and getting paid by the Lebanese state and their officers and soldiers in Lebanese army. So even Lebanese army is not entirely pure and clean from Hezbollah. Hezbollah is also an official party in the parliament of Lebanon, and it is part of Lebanon. So it's a very unfortunate failed state. I wish to Lebanon to cure itself from this cancer.
So we have two sides approach here. We can see how the expert from Lebanon saying the very important question, who is going to pay for all of those destructions happened before, and Israeli expert is sure that those who are responsible for that, that means Hezbollah, what's happening, on Lebanon, should be responsible. Artur, I am giving the floor for you to answer if you have to say something.
Yeah, well, so we are not an Afghanistan-like state. Lebanon is a very segregated society. Obviously, my opponent has never been here, so doesn't really know what he's talking about. As for the fact that we're a failed state, correct. We're a completely failed state. It's not due to Hezbollah alone. It's generations of corrupt leaders who care more about their own people instead of the country that they're supposed to serve. As for the solution right now, it's evident. I think my opponent misunderstood me. What I said was, it's important now, who's going to jump in the vacuum of rebuilding? In 2006, the previous war we had with Israel, the very unfortunate summer war of that year, the Iranians came up with a lot of money and said, we're going to rebuild it. So they bought a lot of influence with that. So the question now is not if Hezbollah should be annihilated or are they part of Lebanon? Of course, they are a political party as well, a civil movement. We cannot abolish a civil movement just because of neighbors in the south want that to happen. That is something that you have to decide in the poll. There will be elections in hopefully next year, in 2 years maybe. The people will decide how large the support for Hezbollah will be. As for the military branch of the organization, I completely agree with him. It's in nobody's interest to have Hezbollah in the south and getting us in a few years another war again. And not in the interest of Lebanon, not in the interest of the people, not in nobody's interest. So what is now really important is, instead of pointing fingers, and emphasizing on things that happened in the past, like how are we going to deal with the future? Are we going to allow Iran to regain control? This is what we should worry about, not a whole charade about what a failed state it is, etc. That's old news. I would like to look at the future and see what's going to happen to the country that I love. And it is not an Afghanistan-like mess here. It's complete nonsense. I'm sitting here in my apartment in Beirut. It's fine. I can assure my opponents.
Mikhail, how do you think the Israel-Hezbollah ceasefire will affect the broader regional tension, especially when it comes to the situation between Israel and Gaza, and of course, taking into account the position of the global actors?
Well, I think my vis-a-vis should take into account demographics. Within 20, 30 years, the demographics will be that the Hezbollah supporters that are all fanatical people and puppets of Iran will be demographically dominating Lebanon. Now, let's continue. Regarding this truce, I don't believe that it will be viable. I really believe that the next war will be coming within 7 to 10 years tops. And this was the dynamics all year round. And as long as there will be terrorist Hezbollah dominating in Lebanon, we will be practicing the policy which we call shaving. Shaving means the hairs grow and we cut them off. We shave them off. When the might of Hezbollah will become dangerous for us and they will attack us, which is inevitable, we're going to shave them off again like we did now. This is inevitable, and this will continue time and again until this movement will disappear. It's not a social movement, as the expert from Lebanon claims. I understand him. He's afraid for his life because if he's going to say something different, they may kill him or kidnap him. It's a terrorist movement which is recognized as terrorist in the United States, in EU, in Japan, in South America, in South Korea, in Jordan, in Saudi Arabia, in Emirates, all over the world. I don't even want to mention Israel. So this is a terrorist movement that has taken Lebanon as hostage. That's what it is.
Arthur, please, your turn on this point. What about the future? How this ceasefire will affect the broader regional tensions?
Well, that's a very good question, and I surely hope, and as I started my contribution, that the Lebanese army is going to take control now of the south. It's in nobody's interest to have a militia in any country. Same goes for Lebanon. And I do not fear for my life. I'm just speaking, out how I see things. So, my counterpart is right. I mean, Lebanon should become a strong state, but it needs support from the exact same countries my counterpart just mentioned. So instead of giving us a lip service, let them actually help us rebuild our country and make the Lebanese army stronger. I think the solution lies in that, not in war rhetoric. I fear for my life or nothing. As I'm saying, it's all nonsense. We are dealing with a country where there's many different religions, there are many political parties and entities. They all have the right to run for elections. As for the military wing of Hezbollah, I completely agree. Enough is enough. We have seen in 2006, it's counterproductive, gets us in a war. We have seen it last year, after October 7, October 8. All of a sudden, they start to fire rockets at Israel. They didn't, nobody still understands why that happened. There was nothing heroic about that, attacking our southern neighbor. It was completely ridiculous. Even despite the fact what happened between Hamas and Israel, that's none of our business. That's the problem. So I would like to look at the future, and I really hope that, instead of getting beautiful words and poetry from our Arab brotherly and sisterly countries, so to say, I would like to see some money for the Lebanese army, make it strong. Make it a strong army again that protects people, like any other normal country, like Israel and Syria, that you have a national army that can actually protect the people. That's the whole idea.
Arthur, one additional question to you. Talking about the control which Lebanese government may take over this situation, do you expect the international interference and international support in these particular issues, or it's all about the Lebanese government who should take the responsibility in its own hands?
Question to me?
Yes, please.
So, what is the Lebanese government? If you look at the last elections that Hezbollah lost, big time, as of that moment, they have been blocking as a political entity with their military might the elections of a new president, which we don't have. They have been blocking the formation of a government. So we don't really have a government. The government that you see right now is a caretaker government that lost the elections. So the problem is now, we have a complicated political scenario in Lebanon. So the challenge is now to consolidate this conflict, to elect a new president, to form a government that respects the outcome of the last elections, and then we get international support with that government that is representing the people. The people who are now sitting in the Grand Sarai in Beirut do not represent us anymore, if they ever did. So the question lies in, are we now able, as a country, to regroup, to elect a leader of the state, a president, to form a government that represents the will of the people, and actually crawl back on our feet? We don't not forget that we're in a complete economic disaster. We have hyperinflation, unemployment. I mean, Lebanon is a complete mess. So it's time for us to look at the international community and say, okay, hey, we need help by, obviously, security-wise, financially. We need to have some kind of international support to help us get back on our feet, instead of countries that deal with us in their own benefit, in their own interest, and don't really care about us Lebanese people. Of course, we are dumb enough to let ourselves be used by entities from abroad. We still have a country, let's be happy, and let's try to build and make it a strong country with better relations with our neighbors, with the Syrians, the Israelis. There's no other way. We are neighboring countries. We can't keep in a state of war forever. It's in nobody's interest.
Mikhail, the same question to you. So what are your future expectations if the situation is not being normalized in Lebanon, except of those mentioned points you already brought to the table about the possibilities of new escalation, how Israel may also contribute to this ceasefire agreement to be sustained?
Well, our dream is to sign a peace treaty with Lebanon, because we respect this people, the nation of Lebanon. They're a nation of ancient Phoenicia, great civilization, amazing people, and they are intruded, and the terrorists are destroying this country. We're going to destroy them from the air. These routes will be cut off. We will try to help the Lebanese army and to cooperate with them in some ways, because our interest is to make Lebanese army strong, and our interest is to enable Lebanese army to destroy or entirely subjugate Hezbollah. This is in our national interest. However, I don't know whether this is going to happen. Now, who can give money for the damage done? It's very important, as I said earlier, to speak with the United States. I don't believe France will do anything, because France obviously used to be a colonial empire, and Lebanon and Syria were in the zones of occupation of France, and they dominated over there. But today their interests is only business interests and their own selfish interests. I don't think France will pay for the damage done. I don't think France will do anything other than just talking. But with the United States, with President Trump, acknowledging the fact that his son-in-law is Lebanese, this is a very unique channel of asking for aid. And I think that this is the route to take. I mean, after all, we wish for Lebanese people only peace and prosperity.
Well, dear expert, thank you so much for joining our discussion today. That's all for now. A very good afternoon to you all from Baku.